right, let's do this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the A and C podcast. I'm your host today, Andrew Campbell. And in the house today, we have ECW Original, Mr. Chili Willie.
Yo.
Woo! And we have as our special guest today, he is none other than Mr. CVV Chris Van Vlliet.
Yeah.
Woo, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. What an honor. What a pleasure to be chatting up with you guys.
Dude, Chris, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate this. You're one of like the top podcasters today, man.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
Oh, yeah. Now, Chris, are you about to host a new show?
I'm actually filming a new show right now. Yeah.
Snap.
Yeah. We're in the process of filming this. We haven't released a date for when the show is going to be out, but it's called My Dream Purchase. And this is the idea that like you just came into some money. You can finally buy the thing you've always wanted to buy. That's exotic car, boat, yacht, private plane, helicopter, whatever. And I'm the host that's going to walk you through this purchase.
Wow.
Nice. Awesome.
Oh,
yeah, I'm really excited about this. I moved to Los Angeles, last summer, and we started filming this show not long after I moved here. So I'm pumped about this. This is my, I know everyone knows me for the YouTube interviews and the wrestling interviews, but this is my wheelhouse. Like I love hosting. I've been doing it my entire career, and to be able to, in a post-COVID world, which we are, hopefully in, I'm excited to be doing this in-person stuff again.
Wow.
Awesome, man.
We're definitely glad to have you on, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure, man. And you're definitely the cream of the cream. How you say that? Cream of the crop when it comes.
Cream of the crop, yeah.
when you talk about the YouTubing and all this good stuff. So we just getting into this. We're trying to be like you, brother.
Heck yeah.
And we're just glad that you have graced us to come on our podcast. Take time out to come on our podcast and show us some love. So we love it, man. Thank you.
Well, look, congratulations to you guys, because so many people talk about starting a YouTube channel. So many people talk about starting a podcast, and that's it. And that's usually where the conversation ends. The fact that you guys are actually doing it and you're showing up every single week and putting this out.
Nice.
Congrats.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
No doubt.
Now, Chris, how'd you get your start as a on-air personality or a broadcaster?
I mean, this is something I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to have a job that I didn't hate. Didn't want a job where, I couldn't enjoy Sunday because Monday morning was, coming up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in a nutshell, basically in high school, we had a communication studies class where we got to actually make like television segments every single week. And I loved it. I loved being in front of the camera. I loved presenting. I was the vice president of my student council in high school, and I did the morning announcements, hosted the talent show, hosted the fashion show. Whoa. Just loved being in front of people, loved presenting, loved being able to get a reaction out of a crowd. So when it came time to pick a college major, and think about it, you're 17 years old and they're basically saying like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, that communication studies class was pretty fun. I guess I'll major in communication studies. So went to college for communication studies. And then, that's where I really learned the basics of it. And it hit me really hard. Like in my senior year, I loved college and I was living with 4 of my best friends, but it hit me really hard one day in my senior year that like, when we graduated, that was the end of the fun. Like you were gonna have to go work for, the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I decided in that moment that I didn't want to be someone who hated their job. And I reached out to every radio station and every TV station in my college town and basically just said, I'm a communication studies major, super passionate about broadcasting. Can I just come in and see how it's done in the real world? And one radio station brought me in as part of their street team. And I handed out like stickers at events, and it was just part of their family. Another TV station was like run by volunteers. And I went in and did all that's behind the scenes stuff. I was running cameras and VTR and floor directing and audio.
Wow.
And then this other radio station, a news talk radio station, said, we don't take volunteers, but how would you like a job? And I went, okay. They said it only pays $8 an hour. I'm like, well, that's $8 more than I thought I was going to be making. And I got a job there as a board operator. So I was running the soundboard. And then whenever my shift was over, I would go into the recording studio and I would lay my own voice down on like recording. So I had something to like show for it. So that's where it really began. And when I graduated, I got an internship, kind of lied my way into an internship.
Okay.
I knew I needed an internship to at least have that like jumping off point to like, maybe get a real job. And it was spring break and I reached out to all these different TV stations. Nobody got back to me. And I Googled the general manager's email address for this really small station about an hour from my hometown. And I said, hey, it's spring break. I'm going to be there. It'd be just great to come by and, see how you run things at the TV station and talk to you about an internship. And he said, well, if you're going to be in town, sure, come on by. And it was a total lie. I hadn't been to this town in like 10 years. I had no intention to go there. But he said, yeah, come on by. So I drove up there, an hour drive each way. And he basically said, yeah, this isn't usually something we do. We don't usually just give internships unless you're going to earn some college credit. But yeah, you've built up your resume. Here you go. So to wrap up my what I said would be a short story and it's turning into a long one. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
That's all right. It's all good.
Basically, I was an intern there and 2 weeks into my job, they put me on TV. And my internship from me working behind the scenes to me being a reporter for the rest of my internship. And I was working my high school job at the pet store in the fish department at the mall to pay for the gas to drive to my internship. And after 2 months of my internship, the general manager said, we don't want you to be an intern anymore. I said, I can't afford to do this anymore. And he goes, good. Well, you're not an intern anymore because we created a job for you. Wow. Congratulations. So that's how it all started for me. But the root of it, the seed of it was just a real passion for what we're doing right now, which is broadcasting.
Nice. Man.
Yeah. It's like, I look at and I listen to what you just said. It's like wrestling, man. You put in the work, man. I mean, you grind your way, to where you are now. But let's transition into this. How did you get into wrestling and how did you find the love for it?
I've always been a fan of wrestling and became like a mega fan in the Attitude Era. So when I started working in television and right after that, news job that I was just telling you guys about, I was working as a host for MTV2 Canada. I was living in Vancouver and hosting the show. And, when you start to host an entertainment show, you start to get access to a lot of celebrities. Yeah. So I was interviewing a lot of actors and celebrities and musicians and comedians. And then WWE came to town and I asked my boss, I said, do you think we could interview a WWE superstar? My boss goes, yeah, sure. We've done that before. And I went, oh my God, hold on. I'm going to get paid to talk to wrestlers. This is blowing my mind. And that's really where like the two worlds of my love for wrestling and my passion for broadcasting were able to like come together because I was able to get this access that your average fan wasn't able to get. And I started to really build on that. My first interview was 2007 with Bobby Lashley.
Wow.
Once or twice a year when WWE or TNA was in town, I would do an interview. We'd put it on TV. Then I started to think like, well, that's cool for the people that happen to be watching TV at that exact moment to see that interview. But what about all the wrestling fans that, weren't tuning in? So I started putting them on my YouTube channel simply as a place for them to live. I started uploading them like, if you weren't watching TV at 6:17 that day, you missed it. Right. So I started uploading the raw interviews to my YouTube channel in 2011, just as a place for them to live, not just wrestling interviews, but other celebrity interviews I was doing. And that's where the YouTube thing started, was like just simply out of a place of like, I want other people to be able to share in this with me. That was it.
Wow.
Nice. Okay.
Now I know it's been a long journey for you so far. How many Emmys have you won?
I've won 4 Emmys.
Wow.
They're somewhere behind me here.
Dude.
I've lost a lot more than I've won,
Really?
4
yeah,
Emmys.
And awesome. I feel very honored to even be nominated, right? That's the pinnacle. When you work in television, the pinnacle is getting nominated for an Emmy Award. And then if you're really lucky, to win it. So yeah, it's been a really cool thing.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Now,
No,
do
I
you?
was listening. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry,
Go, Joe.
Andrew. I was listening to a podcast that you had with a young lady. I forget her name, but you were telling a story about how you interviewed the Miz,
Mm.
and I think that was it. You interviewed the Miz, and then you had about 3 or 4 subscribers, and and then you woke up the next morning, and your YouTube channel just blew up. So tell that story for all our
Yeah.
viewers.
So that was like right around 2011 when my YouTube channel started. And, I was putting on the odd, celebrity interview here and there. The Miz was about to throw out the first pitch at the Cleveland Indians game.
Oh, yeah.
And I was living in Cleveland at the time. So we talked to the Cleveland Indians. They said, yeah, sure, you can talk to him before he throws out the first pitch. The interview was like 3 minutes long. But
Wow.
in that interview, he said a few things that he had never talked about before. He admitted that he had been knocked unconscious and like doesn't remember the end of WrestleMania 27, which he won, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then he also said that like this was right after the CM Punk pipe bomb. And he basically said it was the most exciting thing in wrestling since the Attitude Era. And I went, oh, that's pretty cool. So he threw out the first pitch. I put the video on YouTube, didn't think anything of it because I just had, like you said, a handful of subscribers at the time. Woke up the next day and that video had 6,000 views, which was like
Good.
way more than any video I'd ever made. What happened here?
Man.
Wow.
The day after that, it had like 36,000 views. And I went, oh my gosh. And what had happened was a few people had taken this and either, shared it on Reddit or on Twitter or embedded it on different news websites. And that was when I really learned I obviously knew the internet was powerful and I knew that, stuff was able to spread really quickly, but this is where I first seen it like firsthand. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I think we're onto something here. So from that point on, I went into these interviews going, it's cool to talk to someone, but what can we get out of them that they've never talked about before that maybe would be interesting to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice, man. Now, do you have any advice for any new broadcasters or even podcasters today?
I think the biggest thing, especially if you're doing like these style of interviews, is just to listen. Like I love this quote from Larry King. He says, I never learned anything by talking. And Larry King, God rest his soul, is one of the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such good, sage advice to like ask a question and genuinely listen. And I think that unfortunately, when people first get into this, they're so focused on what the next question is going to be that they're not present in that moment and listening to actually what's happening. So that would be one really big piece of advice. And I think the second one is just like, be consistent. Like, I think, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people talk about starting a YouTube channel or podcast. And, most people give up after I think it's something like 7 podcast episodes. Most people just give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it. It's a really slow growth and you're trying to be that needle in a haystack. And it's really hard to stand out. But one of the best ways that you can stand out is by continuing to show up and continuing to deliver. Not unlike wrestling. You can't expect to be a star after 4 months in the business. You got to keep showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
For sure, man. For sure.
I got one also for you. Now you talk about wrestling. I've seen some of your videos where you actually train like with John Morrison. You took chops from like Tyler Breeze and all those guys. And you talked to all the wrestlers. Why and when will Chris get in the ring with some company and do a match? Man, we waiting to see this.
I don't know. I really don't think this is gonna Look, I love pro wrestling. And I trained when I was 20 years old. I trained at the Squared Circle in Toronto. And I learned how to lock it up. I learned how to run the ropes. I trained for, like 3 months. So I got the basics, right? I got the basics behind me. Certainly don't know how to actually, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fully trained wrestler. I learned how to bump and I learned how to do some of the real basics. And I had a crossroads because I was doing this in the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college. I was doing it in the summer. And then when it came time to go back to college that year, I had a decision to make because now wrestling school was over an hour away. It was 4 times a week. It was $250 a month. And when you're in college, $250 is it's a lot of money. So I had to decide like what was most important because I knew I couldn't put all of my effort into both things. So I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on school. I'm going to get my communication studies degree. Wrestling will always be there. And I'm glad that I like went in the ring, physically felt what it was like, but wrestling will always be there. And I graduated, started working in broadcasting. And I mean, I'm so fortunate to be able to work in broadcasting. And then, every once in a while, dip my toe into the wrestling world.
There you go.
But I think that if I were to have a match, I'm such a perfectionist.
Okay.
And I would want it to be fantastic. I would want it to be amazing. Like what Bad Bunny's match was at WrestleMania. Like, good, right? Like the bar was not that high and is never that high for like a celebrity match like him, but he crushed it. He knocked it out of the park.
Yes.
Right? Same with Pat McAfee, like so good. And I think that I don't know if I'd want to have a match because I would want it to be amazing. And I don't know that it would be.
Who would it be against? Who would be your opponent? Who would you like to go against?
I mean, can I pick anybody?
Anybody.
All right. Well, if I'm going to pick anybody, I'm going to have a match with The Rock.
Oh, snap.
So there it is. The only way I'm going to have a match is if The Rock has a match with me. So it's on The Rock.
You heard it here, folks.
Cool. Heard it here first on the ASC podcast.
That's right.
Imagine The Rock carrying me through a match.
But what would your name be? What would your name be?
So I was a backyard wrestler. Yeah,
snap.
So stupid, so embarrassing. I was a backyard wrestler when I was 16 and 17, and maybe I still like lived that persona a little bit when I was 18 and 19. But I was Chris Sharp. I was a big time heel, sharp talking, sharp walking, sharp dressing, cutting a promo on you right now. No,
all right, there you go.
Yeah, I was very inspired by like this is 2000 and 2001. So geez, we're going way back.
Wow.
I was very inspired by like Triple H at the time. So, there's like those like look into the camera, like heel promos. Like that was what I was very much into.
Nice.
Oh, and a heel. Okay, Chris Sharp. So you would be the son of Mike Sharp.
Whoa.
Wow. I see that. Yeah.
I'm very glad the way that everything worked out for me. I'm 38 years old now, and I can't imagine if I'd been wrestling for the last, it would have been 20 years or almost 20 years. I don't know if I'd be able to get out of bed without my knees hurting, my back hurting, my neck hurting, and you feel me. And a lot of my friends who are my age or even younger have those issues and have had surgeries. And, here I'm knock on wood. I feel so incredibly grateful to have amazing health. And I don't know if that would be the case if I pursued that path. So, I think that everything happens for a reason. And I'm sitting here right now chatting with you guys because of the path that I've been on.
Yeah, man. Now, Chris, I've seen some videos and some clips before of you actually in the ring doing some spots. What would be your signature move if you actually did have the match?
Well, I mean, I posted a video recently of a spot I did in Cleveland with Prime Wrestling where I gave a rock bottom in the middle of the ring. And I did this spot with Nikki Valentino, who put me over in the biggest way. Like, he jumped so high for my rock bottom. He sold the crap out of it. So I would have to think, being as inspired as I am by The Rock, my move would have to be the rock bottom. And I mean, if you haven't seen the video, not trying to pat myself on the back here, but pat, it was a pretty damn good rock
Dude,
bottom.
It was, man. It was.
Wow. Damn, that's awesome. What about working in WWE or AEW or NWA, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling? What do you have any aspirations of being any type of broadcaster or commentary,
I mean, I had the very, great opportunity to work a few shows with AEW, which was, I mean, as a wrestling fan, so cool. Right. And to be a tiny little part of the very first episode of wrestling on TNT and almost 2 decades was
Mm.
incredible. But I'm really happy doing what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Like I was saying before, like my main thing is hosting. I love being a
Mm.
TV host. I love being a
Nice.
broadcaster. And I've got my hand in a lot of different things, the YouTube channel, the podcast. I also run a fishing company called Woo Tungsten.
Really?
I love bass fishing, and we've been able to turn this into a brand that's doing really, really well. So
Dude, that's awesome.
look, I'll never say no to anything. I'll never say no to any opportunity, but I'm really happy with what I'm doing right now and continuing to build on what I've got.
Nice, man.
Okay.
How long has your or how long have you had your fishing company?
We started it 5 years ago. We started in 2016.
Really?
And like this is going to be a theme throughout everything that we talk about, but I'm a really passionate person. And when I love something, I dive all the way in. I don't check the depth of the water, don't check the temperature of the water, just dive all the way in, figure it out when I get in there. And bass fishing was definitely one of those things. Caught my first fish when I was 4 years old, and pun intended, I was hooked. And started fishing in bass tournaments when I was 14, and just I love the sport, and I love that you're competing against yourself, really, not unlike amateur wrestling or not unlike golf. Like it's you against you, really.
Yeah.
And I always loved that. And my fishing partner and I saw an opportunity in the fishing business, and we went, all right, let's capitalize on this and let's build a brand. And yeah, that's where we are right now. You can find us online at woo-tungsten.com. So if you're a bass fisherman and you're looking for some great gear, here you go.
Never been fishing. I want to try fishing. I've never been fishing in my life.
Oh my
Never.
gosh,
Really?
come on.
Not once. Not
Billy
once,
Willie.
man. Not once. I know, man. I know. I mean, I just haven't. But my last question to you, Chris, and I really, like I said, we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
What I know you've had probably some not so cool interviews with certain people, whatever. What is your advice for guys like me and Andrew if we're interviewing someone and it doesn't go well? Like in wrestling, we know how to cover certain things up. Keep going on with the match. You don't stop, start over.
Yeah.
What advice would you give guys like us who are starting out in the podcast world, and we just don't, we might not have that, good episode or that good interview? How do we push on and,
Well,
recover?
it's not unlike what you were saying. Like you just have to push on, right? And not everything's going to go perfectly. That's not just in interviews. That's just in life, right? Not everything's going to go the way that you want it to go. But I think that when we're talking about interviews here, it's really important to understand that the interview doesn't begin when the recording begins. The interview begins the second this Zoom window opens, or if it's in person, the second you walk into the room. And I'm a big believer that, like, if I can bring good, fun energy, even if that person's having a terrible day or they don't want to be there, and that's often the case, I would hope that my fun energy can maybe bring them up a little bit.
Right.
And I think it's also important to like start by asking, like, everyone's favorite topic, everyone's favorite subject is themselves, right? So I would say, especially if you've got a half-hour interview or an hour-long interview, start with some softballs. Like start with some questions that'll warm that person up, like that'll get them make them feel good, like start to build that rapport with them. And the more rapport that you build with every single question, you're just building on that. So then maybe you can, get to some other stuff that maybe they've never talked about before. But I would just say, stay present in that moment and appreciate the moment for what it is. I think that we sometimes psych ourselves out by thinking about these as interviews with a capital I. These are just conversations. If the three of us went out for chicken wings right now, we wouldn't be like, okay, all right, Andrew said this, and after Andrew says this, I'm going to talk about this next, and then Chili Willie's going to say this. No, you would just be like, let's just hang out. And I think that that's the biggest thing is they're not interviews, they're conversations.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you so much for that advice,
dude. Heck yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Chris, what advice do you have to anybody that's looking to build a brand?
I mean, I'm trying to figure this out myself, but I mean, at the risk of sounding really cliche, I think it's important to be yourself. And, especially in this time on social media, everybody can see through BS pretty quickly.
Mm.
And I think it's important to figure out who you are, but also who you are as a broadcaster and who you are as a brand. And it's important to like stay within that lane. Like if this is going to be your niche, whatever it is, whatever you choose, if it's fashion or it's wrestling or it's basketball or whatever it happens to be, movies, find your niche and then niche down into that niche. Just know that you can't be all things to all people. You don't go to the buffet because the buffet has the best steak. You go to the steakhouse because the steakhouse has the best steak. And I think that more people need to be the steakhouse rather than trying to be the buffet. You can't please everyone, so don't try to please everybody.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I got one more.
Okay.
One more. Hold on. One more. Chris,
fire away.
Chris. I see, man, you jacking up, man. I see you.
Ooh, oh yeah.
Now,
Pythons.
It's like a big transformation, bro. I mean,
dude, yes.
The guns are popping out, dude. What you doing? What are you doing?
Eating a lot more pizza. That's it.
What you getting ready for, man? What you get?
No, look, I've always worked out, right? I've been working out since I was 16. 16 is when I got my first gym membership. And I've always worked out. It's been a big part of my life. Like I don't drink coffee. That is my way I wake up, like going to the gym, like fires me up, juices me up. So yeah, I think when the gyms finally opened after, being closed for months, I kind of went in with a renewed energy and a renewed like drive. And I went, okay, maybe first of all, my workouts during COVID were awful. And this is nothing against at-home workouts, but they're just not for me. If they work for you, amazing. That's great. I just would rather lift weights. So when the gym did open back up, I felt like it was when, that girlfriend that breaks up with you, but then comes back, you go, oh my gosh, I never should have, I should have treated you better. I never should have let you go. So when the gyms opened back up, I went, okay, I am going to make sure that I'm going to, take advantage of this opportunity. So I just dialed in my workouts a little bit more. And I don't know if I'm in much better shape than I've been in the past. I just might be wearing, shirts that have less sleeves. I don't know.
That's good, man.
I've always been about 180, 185 pounds. And, some weeks I eat more pizza than other weeks. And those weeks I have more abs than other weeks.
Nice. Exactly.
Do you follow any certain like programs or anything, Chris?
Nothing specific. I always joke, like I joke about eating a lot of pizza because I'm such a sucker for pizza and chicken wings. So, I don't really have a program where I'm like following a diet to a T. I'd say my workouts in the gym are, not unlike what anybody in the gym's doing, push, pull, legs.
Okay.
But it's just a matter of being consistent. I think that should be the theme for all of this. It's just consistent.
True.
You can't go to the gym once and expect to be in great shape. Like
exactly.
It is and if you've never worked out before, I think that too many people are expecting to see results like immediately. If you've never worked out before, just get into the gym, spend 20 minutes on a treadmill and then the next day do something else, but just be proud of yourself for actually going in there. And
there you go. That's right, man. That's right. Now, Chris, I got to ask you, man, any advice for somebody that's just starting out on YouTube or social media in general, man? Do you have any advice for them to move up with followings and views and all that good stuff?
It's a long road. So I think the biggest piece of advice is like, just take it one step at a time. And I always say vague goals get vague results. And I think it's really important to say, one day I want 100,000 subscribers or I want 100,000 followers. But if you're at 5 right now, go, all right, well, I'd like to be at 10 by the end of the week. And then if you get to 10, go, all right, well, maybe I can get to 25 by the end of the month. And then I think that set these little goals, these little stair step goals along the way and celebrate them as they happen.
Okay.
And I think it's, I think that too many people get lost in the idea of like, if I'm not as big as Mr. Beast or Logan Paul or whoever, like I'm a failure. It's like, everybody started in the same spot. Everybody started with 0. So it's
Right.
important to just take what you have, take what's in front of you, and appreciate it as you go.
There we go. Okay. Nice, man. One last thing, Chris, I gotta ask you. You always end your podcast or your interviews with what are 3 things you're grateful for? So I want to ask you, Chris, what are 3 things you're grateful for?
I love this. Thank you for turning this back around on me.
Good end.
I start and end every day with this because I think that if you can lead with gratitude, how could you possibly be in a bad mood? You know, if you're thankful for the things that you have in your life instead of being focused on the things that you don't have, how could you possibly be upset? So I'm thankful for my family. And it's been really difficult. You know, my family all lives in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And because of the COVID travel restrictions, I haven't seen my parents in person since Christmas 2019.
Yeah.
So
Man.
it's been tough.
Right.
And, you know, I love my mom and dad. They've been married for 47 years. They're best friends. They've set this incredible example of like what companionship is all about. So really grateful for my family. And springboarding off of that, number 2, I'm super grateful for my health and my family's health. It has been a really tough year for all of us.
Yes.
And I'm really fortunate that everybody that I'm close to and everybody that I love has remained healthy through all of this.
Awesome.
And number 3, I'm just grateful for like a new opportunity every single day. Like we have the opportunity in front of us to do and be whatever we want every single day. And I'm so grateful to know that that exists right now as I'm talking to you guys. And then it'll exist tomorrow when I wake up in the morning. And it's every single day. And I just think it's so exciting that you have the opportunity every day to write your own story.
Nice.
Dude, awesome, man. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you guys. This was fantastic. Really appreciate you inviting me on.
If you ever come out to the Philippines, look me up. That's where I'm at, in the Philippines.
How long have you been in the Philippines?
6 years.
What? And what is it, like 4 o'clock in the morning right now?
Exactly 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God. Dude, what are you doing?
Hey, I couldn't miss out on an opportunity like this, brother.
No.
Well, I hope you get some sleep, man.
Yes, I will. No problem. You know, I'll definitely get some sleep.
I really appreciate you guys having me on.
We really appreciate you taking the time out to come in with us.
Man.
So,
especially after your interview with John Cena, man.
It literally just ended. Yeah.
Dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was a good one. He's such a good guy. And we had a great chat. And you'll be seeing that on my channel really soon.
Awesome.
Nice. Okay.
Chris,
go ahead. Yeah, I was getting ready to say. I was getting ready to do the same thing, Andrew.
Where can people find you at on social media?
Well, wherever you're listening to this right now, you can find my podcast, Insight with Chris Van Vlliet, where I am pulling little insights of people who are at the top of their game. You know, I want to figure out how they became so successful. So, you know, I can bring those things into my own life. And on social media, it's just my name, Chris Van Vliet, VanVliet. And again, you guys are awesome. Super appreciate your time. And thank you for such great questions.
Thank you. Thank you.